And that takes some dedication to do that, because there's no amount of money. I don't think anyone in here would do that for this amount of money these guys get paid, and I applaud them for doing that, because they have to be dedicated to do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And they do. Even when the high heat, sun is high, nobody wants to go outside. It's sweating. They come back to the shop drenched and dirty where they have had to go, repair a water line. Whenever the city or maybe a subdivision is without water, our guys are there whether we're responsible or not. They're there. They're hands in. How can we support? They love this city. They want everything to work. Clean water, good water, sewer pumping for good reason, right? And all that fun stuff. But we appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you.
How's everyone doing? Good. So I'll keep this brief. Our mission is to provide accurate, timely, transparent utility billing services while delivering exceptional customer support. Um, as many of you know, our biggest accomplishment this year so far has been the implementation of WQA, something that was asked. I figured it out. We figured it out. We got it implemented, got it done. It's been working for the past couple of months without any errors, any problems. It's doing what it was designed to do, so which I'm glad. Another accomplishment, which may seem minor to many, but it was just a headache to get this thing implemented, was expanding our payment types to include all major credit card types. There was an issue with us not being able to accept Discover Card. It took about 6 weeks. A lot of going back and forth with 2 different vendors, but it got it done. It's working properly. This next accomplishment is I'm proud of, because when I first started in October of 22, we had 9,000 accounts. We're about 17,000 inside city limits. We had about 2,000 accounts outside city limits. We're now about over 8,000 accounts. Of course, my staff has grown from 4 to 8 to alleviate some of the stress on everyone. So I just want to emphasize those numbers right there. There's about 3,100 accounts per person that they manage on a monthly basis. Priorities for 2027 is continue providing exceptional customer service, continue delivering accurate, and timely and reliable billing, and something I've here recently implemented is developing a skilled and engaged customer-focused team. By that, I mean I'm taking my staff, I'm showing them a lot of the processes that I held back in myself and I did my own. Give them a chance to learn it, give them a chance to experience it, see if they thrive in it. If they do, continue on with that training process, because the more they know, the better we are as a team. It makes my job easier at the end of the day. Next is the challenges. As you know, we're facing exceptional growth. Growing at a rapid pace. It does have its problems and issues, but with the way the team is set up right now and the way that current administration is, it's helping us a lot to meet some of those demands. So that is one of our big challenges. The second challenge, it's up there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest about the wording. This is not the wording I chose for this. Okay, I'm gonna read it out. Ensuring consistency and stability through leadership transitions. Do you guys know what that means? Because I've had 8 different bosses since I've been here. 8. Okay. That for me, I have to learn 8 different bosses. You have to learn what they like, what they don't like, how they want it, how they don't want it. And then I have to take that information and inform the team, hey, this is how we're going to do things. This going forward, we have a new boss, new procedures. Hey, this is what we got to do. This is what we want, and we have to do it because that's part of the job. And part of that, it kind of feeds into our last challenge, is keeping the team engaged while consistently navigating challenging customer interactions. We are the utility billing department. No one calls us to say, hey, I got my water bill. It's great. You billed me for exactly what I used. It's always, hey, this isn't right. You're wrong. It's your fault. You fix it. So a lot of times we know how we get. I know how my team gets. So and I say this I because change starts at the top. I have to make it a point to make sure my team is engaged. What can I do to keep them engaged? What can I do to alleviate some of the stress? What can I ask my leadership team to say, hey, this is the issues we're facing. For example, with WQA. For the most part, it was good. There are some who are very vocal, who call us every day, let us know that, hey, we don't like WQA, do something about it. My team takes those calls. As far as I'm aware, no one else feels those calls except us. So that stress, it is a stress. And it wears on them, it wears on us, it wears on me. But I think we do a decent job of taking that stress and dealing with it and try to fix situations or problems as they arise in-house versus them going above us. And so with that, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I don't have a question, but I want to thank you for demonstrating courage and resilience under pressure. You have endured a lot with the WQA issue, with just billing overall and all of the challenges that just naturally come along with this. And then through 8 leadership transitions, you've done exceptionally well. I see you. You may be stressed, but you don't show it. You still maintain professionalism. And I really appreciate that. It does not go unnoticed. I hope you're recognized internally for it. But as a council member and even as a consumer, I see that in all of the times I've interacted with you, it's been very professional, and I sincerely appreciate that. Kudos.
Thank you. Oh, is that it?
So I believe that should conclude all our departments, correct, Ms. Kelly? Yep, that should include all the departments. So again, within the binders that we provided to all city council members, all the departments, the needs, the org charts, and all this stuff is gonna be there that y'all's would go home, we're gonna review and kind of go over all that stuff. So into this next phase, Ms. Kelly is gonna come up, she's gonna, I'm sorry? Yes, sir. So these notebooks, y'all get to go home and look at them, research and kind of study everything that we talked about throughout the day. There's going to be a little bit more in-depth descriptions from all the departments that's in there, talking about our current org charts, future org charts from every single department. So going in this next phase, Ms. Kelly has water, wastewater, and some other items, CIP projects, and then one more thing, and we should be wrapping up pretty quickly after that.
All right, we're going to go into the water and wastewater rate study, but before I introduce our consultant that prepared that study, just wanted to remind you what goes into a water bill. There are many facets of things that can impact your water bill. We broke it down here in these little areas here, such as the North Texas Municipal Water District, all the water that we have to purchase. That is the biggest line item in this budget. Then there's your solid waste that goes in there. Consumption obviously drives that bill, your operating costs, policies, debt, as well as your capital improvement program. All of these things is what the study looks at, and the consultant looks through all of that to make sure that the rates are where they need to be, meeting our reserves. So we're always trying to strive for that 120-day reserve, and he'll go through all of that. So I'll pass it on to Matthew Garrett, who will, from New Gen. And this is something that council authorized last fall during our budget process as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. Howdy, Mayor and members of the council. You've had a short day going through all the departments, so they said I should take another 45 minutes. Is that right, Kelly? Checking the time? No? Okay. I don't see what I'm showing you, but I will glance back. Again, glad to be here. Some of you that have been on council for a minute recognize me, maybe even from working on 380, right, and the other city council. So we've had the privilege, distinct privilege of working with the city of Princeton Even before I took over the account through Becky Schaefer, she's retired, enjoying grandmotherhood in Ireland more than I'll ever get to. And I'm glad to be here with you tonight. Worked with you for a few years. So want to go through the big rocks. The objectives of this study really are to make sure you can pay the bills. Unlike your general fund, the enterprise operates like a business, right? It even has different accounting, and Kelly can elaborate on that. But you want to make sure that you're able to both pay the bills and keep things going, and you don't want your enterprise fund to live paycheck to paycheck. You're in a good spot. I've presented to 10 different councils in the last month, and you have a very healthy balance. You're among my top 3 relative to your total needs, and so you're not paycheck to paycheck, so you have options. We're going to show you how Kelly and her team are using those balances to help your residents and ratepayers save money. You do need $55.1 million in capital investment, and so we're going to show you how we plan to get there. But before I move in further, he just went back to work because he's diligent. Wanted to say thank you to William and his team, obviously Kelly and Sharita, for their input on this, because I wouldn't have any of these details without them. And here we all go. Hopefully mine doesn't go off. We'll see. So again, we take your 26 and 27 baseline budget, right? You do have a continuation budget. You plan to fund similar things next year. We add a number of inflation factors. Under the hood, I say a lot of times, we've got some inflation factors, about 3% on general. Similar CCI index is at 3.31, or 3.1, forgive me. And then your salary cost at 3%, benefits at 5%. So again, with our wholesale cost being a big driver, personnel's a good number too. So we wanted you to know what we're factoring in. Speaking of wholesale, the average rate of change is about 10%. That's the North Texas Municipal Water District. We'll show you how that takes up the lion's share of your expenses shortly. You are growing very substantially, about 10% per annum on top of the existing connections you already serve. And that's just real counts of connections. That also includes about 720 additional connections that will attach to Culleoke over this horizon each year. So a pretty big lift on the capital side to support that much. Excuse me. But we did have to make some assumptions about those third parties and how they would grow and how we would have to support them. So the average rate of change expected over the 5-year horizon in this utility is 8.7% per annum. We do show you here that your wholesale costs are 47 to 58% of total expenditures. Those are really out of your control. You can't go build a reservoir yourself. You can't build your own wastewater treatment plant, or you may not want to. So the utility is kind of at the mercy of North Texas. I believe in regionalism. I think you're getting a good deal. I think it's expensive to operate a utility for them and for you both. But you'll see the bottom stack there. You see the wholesale rates do make up the lion's share of your cost. O&M is that next cut, dark blue or black, however it's rendering. It's not really growing substantially. We aren't seeing a ton of additions in the operating cost. Making up the capital component and debt service, we kind of showed you here how we plan to fund that. So we have it by category. So you have an aid to construction fund doing what it is supposed to do. In 27, excuse me, you see a pretty substantial bar there. So Kelly and her team have identified available resources, not just leaving them in the bank, they're putting them to use. Additionally, you do have impact fees and the CIP fund. Our plan for the CIP fund is to put about $2 million aside into that every year. So you're just prepaying some of your renewal and replacement, you're prepaying other needs that may come up. And you can see we have a plan to use it here. So kudos on the interest avoidance that right entails. That $2 million you're putting aside would have cost you about $1.3 million, or Jason will tell you a better number later. But you're saving considerable interest by doing that. I apologize. I was not able to speak Monday, so this is an improvement. I think it's allergies. So this is the dashboard. We typically say, this is what happens if you do not change rates. And for some of my communities, this was a very negative trend. This was a burning platform literally in a year. Here you have solid balances. So this is what would happen if you made no rate change. Your debt service coverage would not be achieved by year 5, and then you'd fall below your 120-day target Kelly alluded to by fiscal 2029. So what do we do about that? We actually are recommending in this coming year, we just listened to a lot of general fund needs that you may not need to make a change to water and wastewater rates in 27. That's a very irregular thing for me to say. I like the concept of rate gradualism, so let's get more every year because we know we need it, because costs are gonna go up, and that's with certainty, right? We have a forecast from our wholesale provider saying costs are gonna go up, but this may strategically be a good year for the city to forego an increase on water and wastewater. To counter not doing an increase this year, we would recommend you need increases of 4% each year for water and wastewater rates. So that's what you see here. You do have a minimum charge that uses meter equivalency. I believe we helped institute that. You have an inclining block rate. That's also industry standard. So no other changes recommended to your rate design. On the wastewater side, similarly, we are recommending no increase in 4%, and you can see how that falls through the current rate design here. Any questions on that? All right. So here's the dashboard. This is a proof of work. This says if you do what we recommended, no increase in 27, 4% per annum on water and wastewater going to 2031, you're able to exceed your metrics, and just by a hair there at 122 days in year 5. So again, we're moving funds to a CIP plan or fund. We're using them judiciously. We're able to still have our operating fund with 122 days, and 4% increases in utility environment for many of my clients is enviable. So I do think the city's in a good position relative to the where rates are. That said, there is still a bill. There's a bill impact, obviously no impact in 27. You can see on this slide what 4% each year does. Current bill is $110 for 6,000 gallons of water use and a 5,000 gallon winter average. That only rises to 128.73 by 2031. Alternately, we were also asked to look at a potential increase in this coming year. So what do? We put a smaller increase in 27 because we can sustain it, but then you need 3% increases each year thereafter. So if you as a council make the decision that you would prefer to keep doing this annually, so people don't forget that bills need to go up over time, you could do so. I have a number of councils that choose every other year. Many want to do it every year if they have to, and some will take stutter step years like this where you either don't have to do anything or you can do less right before a bigger jump is coming. So those are some options.
Question for you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So what happens if we have the projection, but the economy holds steady where there is no increases in the following year? Do we still assess, or do we reevaluate then, hold steady? What happens?
No, not at all. So we never recommend you just blindly adopt multi-year rates. You have a letter every year from North Texas Municipal Water District, right? Over 50% of your bill has some volatility through a third party that may send a letter. We also know that your staffing may change, your cash position may change. I was a finance director in Prosper in 2008. It wasn't a great year for growth. So development, right? These 1,200 connections we're banking on, or 1,800 in the aggregate on average, maybe that slows for a minute. And so don't blindly follow a rate plan, but you would come back after 27 successfully, hopefully with no big change or ripples, and reevaluate, was the forecasted budget correct? Kelly and her team will have that in their hand. They have a detailed account ledger. They have all the CIP. And I know she's equipped because she's worked through this very intently and detailed with us to see what assumptions did we make about year 2 and do they still hold next year this time when we're planning for fiscal 28. So again, I wouldn't blindly adopt a rate plan, but I do have some clients. Cedar Hill's an example. They adopt a 3-year rate plan. And their city manager asked me to look at it every year anyways, and we say whether or not it's still good. So I have very few municipal clients that do that, though. Yes, ma'am. All right. So again, this is an opportunity to do a small increase. Fortunately, the math worked out. We kind of forced it to. 2.25% on wastewater as well, and 3%. That has a smaller impact, about $2.42. here in '27, 2% overall change to that typical user, and then smaller increases in future years. So the other good news, not only do you have a good cash position, you're in the bottom quartile for rate comparisons. I unfortunately presented last night to a top of the chart guy over west of us here. And if you keep your rates the same, of course, you stay in that low position. And even if you were to raise that 2.25, you're still very low relative to the peer group. Last thing I'll mention, I have to because I put it on screen, we're comparing your next year's rate to everybody's current rate. Many of them, if not all of them, have a wholesale water provider. Many, if not all of them, are going to have rate changes this year. So your relative position may even improve if you held the line. I don't know if it'll be below Royce City or not, but I don't do their rates. So, all right, so quick summary, right? We looked at it, we dug deep, we've made a lot of assumptions, we took into account your winter quarter averaging, we've looked at your cash position and availability, we forecasted some debt with rates that we've hope will hold into the future, and you're in a very solid position. So kudos to your team for keeping you in that state and putting a good capital plan that makes these rates feasible. Again, we don't anticipate any action today, of course. This will be a part of your budget. Kelly and team will bring back any small ordinance revisions, if there were any to be made relative to the current adopted ordinance. But I do appreciate your time and happy to answer any other questions you may have.
I have a question, because
Yes,
we've
ma'am.
received an email from some residents outside city limits.
Sure.
It's with the question of, we're doing the winter rates within our city, and they're challenging or questioning whether or not it's okay that we're not offering it outside the city limits. Are you able to, or is there someone who can answer that? Is that okay that are we able to have those two different rates?
So I can say, yes, you're able to. I don't know necessarily, is Colioque not considering recalculating bills, Kelly? I apologize, I don't know that answer.
Would that be up to, like, Colioque Water Supply? I mean, we sell them the water, so they have to make that rate change or whatever they need to do.
Right, and I
not
think
us.
you were asking a lot about the sewer rates. That's what the customers outside of the city of Princeton are asking about, is the sewer. We do charge Colioque and Milligan a rate of 1.5 times. There is infrastructure that still has to be maintained out there in those areas. So they're paying the 1.5 times, which helps the residents in Princeton to hopefully keep our rates down by still maintaining these infrastructure needs. Does that?
Oh, yeah, we get emails, and I inquired, hadn't heard anything, so I just wanted to just get an answer on that.
Same condition is true in Wiley, where they service wastewater in an overlapped area. I think it's Wiley, Northeast Mud or somebody. They don't have the water meter, so they don't have the data to collect to impose a winter quarter average. Flat fee is expeditious, administratively more feasible, and they have chosen to do that as well.
And we don't have their water meter as well.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why you would charge a different fee, because you don't have the data.
Thank you.
Yes, Shirley.
So just looking to council with this two options that we presented today. Think about it. We'll come back and talk about this some more as we build the budget going forward. I appreciate NewGen coming in and presenting the study. It was several months that we worked through this and worked hand in hand with Sharita as well as Will, helped quite a bit with all the data that they requested. I do recommend that we do implement a rate or something. We get some feedback on that for next year, but not a multi-year plan, as he mentioned, and then bring him back again, or some sort of rate consultant coming back every year because of the growth factors. There's a lot of assumptions. That's my recommendation.
So we'll probably readdress this rate study, not at this next city council meeting on Monday, but the following city council meeting, whenever we're going back through this budget again.
Thank you.
So Chief, if you don't mind, could we go into debt capacity and then CIP, wrap it up with CIP?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. This is going to be the fun one.
This is. So we brought in Jason Hughes, our financial advisor, to talk about our debt capacity. I know there's a lot of projects out there. We also have the GEO bond that we will be planning to pull down the second tranche. So we have to factor that in as well for our future debt issuance, as well as the conversation of any other infrastructure needs the city is looking at. Jason helps looking at our debt capacity, so I'll pass it on to Jason.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly had told me that I had double the amount of time that Matthew had allotted, so I'll keep this to an hour and a half. So, all right. Okay. As Kelly went through, one of the things that I wanted to do is not only talk about the debt capacity, but talk about it and give you a little bit of background. So you obviously know what your CIP needs are, and we'll hear more about that, but also wanted to go back. You have the election authority that's still hanging out there, roughly half of that. Wanted to talk about how we got to this point, and then I'll give you some of the numbers on the debt capacity, knowing too that we, at least it looks like, are having a slowing of the tax value growth that you've historically seen over the last 3 to 4 years. So if you go back to July of 2023, at that time, Hilltop had provided information to the council that we were looking at a bond election of just over $109 million. And as you can see there, we actually had it scheduled for $80 million in February of 2024, and then $29.1 million in February of 2027. That's not uncommon, because whenever we have a bond election, we have to take the information that we have at that time, make certain projections based off of that. And so then that was the anticipated time frame in which you were going to access that money. That changes for any and all cities, schools, so that's not uncommon. That's a little bit different than what has actually occurred. So at that time, your INS tax rate, or interest and sinking fund tax rate, which is used to pay the debt, was just over 22 cents. So what we showed there is that the full 109.1 million could be funded within the 22 cents. So there was no tax rate increase associated with that $109.1 million bond election. You did have some debt service funds, some excess debt service funds that were available. Of course, debt service funds can only be used to repay debt, so it's housed within the INS side. So we were going to use a little bit of that, just under $2 million, to maintain the 22.09 cents and not have to have any kind of tax rate increase. It was never contemplated that you would not have other debt coming down. Obviously, as a growing city, we knew that there would be others, but within that finance plan, specific to the $109.1 million, what we did is showed that you had the capacity within that 22.09 cents to do that debt, okay? So if we move forward there, so council called for that bond election in August of 2023, 2 propositions, as you know, that passed by very high margins. In September 2023, the then council lowered the INS tax rate down to 17.94 cents, so a 4.15 cent reduction, okay? You go from there. We did have 2 debt issues, the first being in 2024. We sold COs, again, not contemplated within the 22.09 cents that was conveyed in July of 2023. So we sold COs to fund $20 million for public safety facility. That was the first round. In August of 2025, we sold a further CO issue to fund $25 million. And to provide some more context on that, obviously, as most of you know, the legislature meets every other year. In 2025, one of the things that they were talking about doing was restricting the use of COs and restricting it very narrowly. And so what the city did, and what a number of my other city clients did, is we came to market with COs to make sure that we could fund that piece of the public safety facility that we needed funding for. So again, we sold that, the city sold that in 2025 for construction fund proceeds, $25 million, once again for the public safety facility. At that same time, in August of 2025, again, you issued the first tranche or first bond issue for those GO bonds, and as you can see there, $55.05 million. So said another way, there was an additional $45 million of project proceeds that were issued in '24 and '25 that at the very least were not contemplated within the finance plan that was presented July of 2023. So as it relates to the remaining roughly 54 million from the bond election, what we had anticipated was selling that in the fall of 2027. And that was based off of when it was again anticipated that the city would need funds for the rec center. That is ultimately up to you. You can sell those bonds. You have the election authority from your voters, obviously, going back to the successful November 2023 election. You can sell that at any time point that you as council choose to do so. For planning purposes, we again had assumed fall of 2027. That issue can be sold within what was conveyed 22.09 cents. Again, knowing that we had $45 million more that we ultimately issued. And in fact, it could be based off of the tax values. What we're assuming is about 21 3/4 cents. That would take care, again, existing debt plus the remaining 54 million, okay? So you see there, future issuances over that 54, the remaining 54 million, would require an INS tax rate increase over what was originally contemplated at the 22.09 cents, okay? Let me stop there because I know I went through kind of all the different numbers leading up to where we are today. Questions on that before I talk about the next portion? Okay. For debt capacity and talking with Kelly, there was two primary scenarios we ran just for today and to kind of give some context to what we're talking about as far as debt capacity. Scenario one was to fund $30 million in project proceeds. And so what we did is we ran that, and what we are showing is it would be about a little over a 7-cent increase over your planned FY 2027 rate, which is 17.88 cents. Okay, so about 7.13 cents over that projected 2027 rate. If you go back to the 2023 rate, right, whenever we had first looked at that, it's less than 3 cents over the 22.09. Okay? And I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but I want to kind of give some context to those tax rate increases. So again, $30 million, what we'd be looking at is it comes out to be basically a 25-cent INS tax rate, okay? Scenario two, we basically looked at it and said, okay, if it was a 10-cent increase over this projected 2027 INS tax rate of 17.88 cents, so 10-cent INS rate increase, what would that result in as far as project proceeds that you could expect? And what was calculated based off a 25-year repayment is about $57.4 million. Okay, once again, that $57.4 million would be over and above the $54 million that is still out there from the authorized but unissued from the November 2023 bond election. So those are the two capacity numbers. We can obviously run any other items or capacities that you would like to see, including differences in timing. You may not, on the rec center, maybe it's not fall of 2027, maybe it's a different time period. So we can certainly look at that, but we wanted to provide, one, the history leading up to where we are today, and then two, those capacity numbers based off of the preliminary values, which are now certified, I believe, as of this morning, and we'll certainly update it for that. Questions to this point on that? Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So which one are we, so I'm guessing we have to choose which scenario we want to go with at this point, or?
So, Mayor, that's a great question. Nothing is required today.
Okay.
There's no decisions today. We, again, just wanted to give you an idea of, especially if you wanted to go over and above that roughly 54 million that's left over from the November 2023 bond election, what that potentially could look like depending on how great your needs were.
But as we sit right now, we wouldn't be able to pull the remainder is what we're kind of at right now. So we have to do something different to finish out the project.
So the remainder, the 54 million, yes, sir, would be, again, going up to roughly the 25 cents in total on the INS side.
So regardless, we have to do
beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The remainder would be 21 3/4 cents is what's projected. And then on top of that, I apologize, would be higher than the original 22 cents. Yes, apologize.
So currently, like, just to reiterate, we have, with everything we pulled, the projects we have in place, that's it. With the current tax rate, that's all we can do. We cannot follow through with the remainder of the plans that we've presented without increasing our tax rate in order to fund those remaining parts of the project.
So,
Just
Councilmember, I apologize.
Just
Can
to
you
be, I just want to, like, to be clear, if we follow through with the plans that we presented to the people of what we're doing with this money, we have to raise the taxes. There's no way to pull the money to finish the projects we have presented to the people.
Correct. If you were to go out and issue the remaining roughly $54 million, yes, ma'am, what is projected is 21.75% INS tax rate.
And that money is the rec center money and PD, correct?
Yes.
The PD's issued.
So the PD was already,
The PD has already been issued. That was the history that he was talking about of the 24 and 25 CO. Now, this is just projections right now. What we need to look at is next year. What do our calculations look like? Our tax roll hopefully could possibly will increase, right? We can also